I met Jessica at a charity gala where I was volunteering my architectural services. For 2 years, our relationship seemed perfect. The successful investment banker and I shared dreams, laughter, and what I thought was mutual respect. Last night, over candlelight at Mirabelle, where I had planned to discuss our future, Jessica looked at me with cold eyes. She laughed, saying, "My money is completely off limits even after marriage. You should be grateful I am even marrying down." Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had someone underestimate your worth. I am Ted Jenkins, a 32-year-old architect from Boston. Everything I have built in my life came from hard work and persistence. My parents were school teachers who instilled in me the value of education, but college was something I had to finance on my own. I worked 2 jobs through my undergraduate years and took out loans for my master's in architecture. By the time I met Jessica Parker, I had established myself at a respected firm, designing sustainable commercial buildings with a growing reputation in the industry. The charity event where we met was raising money for affordable housing, a cause close to my heart. I had donated a custom home design as an auction item. Jessica was there representing her family foundation. She wore a simple black dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, but it was her confident stride and genuine interest in the housing initiative that caught my attention. When she approached me to discuss my design, I noticed her intelligent questions about sustainability and community integration. We talked for over an hour, oblivious to the glamorous crowd around us. Jessica had this way of making you feel like the most important person in the room. Her honey brown eyes lit up when she laughed, and she had a habit of tucking her dark hair behind her ear when she was thinking deeply about something. Our first date was at a small art gallery featuring local artists. I was nervous about choosing something too modest, but Jessica seemed genuinely enchanted by the raw talent on display. She preferred this authenticity, she said, to the pretentious showings her parents dragged her to. As weeks turned to months, our connection deepened. We discovered shared passions for travel, jazz music, and Sunday morning crossword puzzles. Jessica was refreshingly unpretentious for someone from her background. The Parker family owned a real estate empire spanning 3 states, and Jessica herself had climbed to senior investment banker status at just 28. Yet she seemed to value me for my creativity, work ethic, and the kindness she said was rare in her social circle. My 1-bedroom apartment in a converted factory building became our favorite weekend retreat. Jessica would kick off her designer heels, pull on one of my old college sweatshirts, and curl up on my second-hand couch with a glass of wine. Those simple moments felt more authentic than the elaborate dinners at her penthouse overlooking the harbor. After a year together, I knew Jessica was the one. I saved for 6 months to buy a ring. It was not the massive diamond her friends sported, but a unique emerald-cut stone set in a design I created myself, inspired by the art gallery where we had our first date. I proposed during a weekend trip to Maine, on a rocky beach at sunrise. When she said yes, her eyes filling with happy tears, I felt like the luckiest man alive. Meeting the Parker family was intimidating. Their estate in Greenwich had a name, not just an address. Mr. Hind. Parker was cordial but reserved, clearly assessing whether I was worthy of his daughter. Mrs. Parker was more openly warm, though I caught her eyeing my watch and shoes with subtle disapproval. Jessica squeezed my hand reassuringly throughout the weekend, and on the drive home assured me they were impressed by my accomplishments and character. Looking back, I should have noticed the early warning signs. The slight grimace when I picked her up in my practical 5-year-old Honda. Her surprise when I mentioned saving for a down payment rather than just buying a condo outright. The way she would sometimes introduce me at social functions as an architect but neglect to mention my firm was not one of the prestigious international ones her friends used. These moments were so fleeting, so quickly followed by genuine affection, that I dismissed them as meaningless. I was in love, building dreams of our future together. Jessica had accepted my modest ring with tears of joy. How could I have known that the emerald stone would eventually feel like a weight pulling me into the depths of a relationship where I was drowning in subtle disdain? The first significant crack in our relationship appeared during wedding planning. Jessica and I had initially talked about a meaningful ceremony with close friends and family, perhaps at her parents' vacation home on Cape Cod. But once her mother got involved, the event ballooned into a 300-guest extravaganza at the Boston Harbor Hotel. During a tasting session where each plate cost more than my weekly grocery budget, I gently suggested contributing to the wedding costs. My savings were modest compared to the Parker fortune, but it mattered to me to invest in our union. Jessica laughed, not her usual warm laugh, but something sharper. "That is sweet, babe, but honestly, this is pocket change for Daddy. Save your money for something you can actually make a dent in." Her words stung, but I swallowed my pride. This was her special day, too, and if her family wanted to celebrate lavishly, who was I to object? Soon I found myself excluded from financial discussions altogether. Decisions about venues, catering, and even our honeymoon were made without my input. When I would ask about costs, Jessica would wave her hand dismissively. "Why do you care? It is not your money." A particularly uncomfortable moment came during dinner with her parents, when Mr. Parker casually mentioned setting us up in one of their company condos after the wedding. "We would not need help with housing," I said, explaining my plans to save for a place of our own, something we build together. Mr. Parker exchanged a look with his wife that made me feel like a naive child. Jessica patted my hand condescendingly. "Ted has this adorable idea about earning everything the hard way," she explained to her parents, as if my desire for financial independence was a quaint eccentricity. As months passed, Jessica became increasingly critical of my lifestyle and career ambitions. When I shared my dream of eventually starting my own small firm focused on sustainable design, she scoffed. "That is never going to generate the kind of income that matches our lifestyle needs," she said. "You should be thinking about joining one of the global firms where you could at least make partner eventually." The fact that she had unilaterally defined our lifestyle needs without discussion was not lost on me. But I told myself relationships required compromise. Perhaps I needed to think bigger for our future together. A dinner party with Jessica friends from the finance world left me feeling particularly inadequate. As the group discussed their recent purchases, second homes, and investment strategies, I had little to contribute. Jessica introduced me as her fiancé, the architect, but quickly steered conversations away from my work. Later that night, I overheard her in the kitchen with her friend Stephanie. "He is really talented," Jessica was saying, "an amazing husband material, so grounded and loyal." But Stephanie pressed, "Are you sure he can keep up with your world?" Jessica sighed. "The gap is definitely wider than I initially realized. But he makes me happy in ways money cannot buy." I should have been touched by her defense, but the conversation left me feeling like a charity case valued for emotional support, rather than seen as an equal partner. Around this time, I accidentally discovered Jessica had a substantial trust fund she had never mentioned. While using her laptop to check movie times, an email notification popped up from her wealth manager, referencing quarterly distributions from the Jessica L. Parker Trust, with a balance figure that made my eyes widen. When I asked her about it that evening, she became defensive. "It is just family money. I do not think of it as mine yet, so it did not seem relevant." "Is there anything else about your financial situation I should know?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "Why are you tallying up what you are getting from this relationship?" she snapped. The accusation hurt deeply. I explained that marriage meant sharing our lives completely, including honest discussions about finances. "Fine," she conceded. "My trust fund vests fully when I turn 30. My grandparents left me a property in Vail. And yes, I will inherit a significant portion of the family business eventually. Happy now." The information was not what bothered me, but her reluctance to share it, as if she needed to guard these assets from me. I began feeling anxious about our future together, wondering what other aspects of her life she kept separate. Still, I remained optimistic that we could work through these issues with time and honest communication. Meanwhile, Jessica continued spending in ways that highlighted our different backgrounds. She bought a $10,000 watch for my birthday, making my carefully planned romantic weekend getaway gift for her seem insignificant in comparison. When I expressed discomfort with such expensive presents, she dismissed my concerns. "You will get used to nice things, Ted. I want to elevate your life." That word elevate kept repeating in different contexts. She wanted to elevate my wardrobe, my car, my career ambitions. The implication was always clear, though never directly stated, that I needed improvement to fit into her world. The situation worsened when I overheard Jessica on the phone with her friend Stephanie one evening. I had come home early from work and was about to announce my presence when her words stopped me cold. "I know he does not make what we are used to," she was saying with an exasperated laugh. "Dad nearly choked when I told him Ted annual income. But he has other qualities that balance it out." I stood frozen in the hallway, heart pounding. There was a pause before Jessica continued. "Of course I am not marrying him for his money, Steph. I have enough for both of us. Think of it like adopting a rescue dog. You know he will be forever grateful and loyal because you chose him." The casual cruelty of her words left me breathless. I retreated quietly and walked around the block for an hour before returning, pretending I had just arrived. That night I lay awake beside her, wondering if I truly knew the woman I was planning to marry. A few weeks later, Jessica announced she had purchased a vacation home in the Berkshires without consulting me. When I expressed surprise at such a major decision made unilaterally, she seemed genuinely confused by my reaction. "It is my money, Ted. I do not need permission to spend it. Besides, I bought it for us to enjoy." "But should not we have discussed it together as partners?" I asked. She looked at me with something like pity. "Is this about your pride? Would it make you feel better if I put your name on the deed too?" The offer, made so condescendingly, only made me feel worse. I did not want her charity. I wanted partnership consultation, mutual respect. The next blow came when her father suggested a meeting to discuss the prenuptial agreement. I had expected something reasonable, protecting her family assets and inheritance. What I did not expect was the document that arrived from their lawyer. It not only protected all her current and future assets, but included clauses about my potential earning capacity, lifestyle expectations, and financial contributions to our household. One clause particularly stood out, stating that in the event of divorce, I would waive all rights to support regardless of any career sacrifices I might make for our family. When I questioned this, Mr. Parker explained matter-of-factly that it protected Jessica from people who might take advantage of her wealth. People like me, I thought, but did not say. Jessica seemed surprised by my hesitation. "It is just business, Ted. If you are not planning to divorce me for my money, why does it matter?" Her inability to see the lack of trust these terms represented was almost more troubling than the agreement itself. My world continued to crumble when I discovered emails Jessica had sent to her cousin. I was not snooping, but had opened her laptop to order food delivery when notifications appeared. The subject line caught my eye. "Has Ted realized he is settling yet?" Against my better judgment, I clicked. The email contained a lengthy complaint about my reluctance to embrace her lifestyle, ending with the devastating line, "Sometimes I wonder if I am settling too much just to have someone who treats me well. Is emotional security worth the social compromises?" As the wedding approached, Jessica became increasingly controlling about every detail. My suggestions for the ceremony were dismissed as too simple or not elegant enough. When I requested that my college roommate Frank be included as a groomsman, Jessica objected. "He is so rough around the edges, Ted. He does not fit the aesthetic we are going for." The idea that my oldest friend was being evaluated as an aesthetic element rather than an important person in my life was deeply troubling. When I insisted, Jessica reluctantly agreed, but assigned him to a back row in the formal photos away from her society friends. The final straw in this escalating pattern came when Jessica failed to show up for our first couples counseling appointment. I had suggested therapy as a way to address our communication issues before marriage. She had agreed, seemingly supportive of the idea, but when I called after waiting 30 minutes at the therapist office, she answered from a spa, having completely forgotten our session. Later, I learned from her assistant calendar notification that Jessica had never intended to attend. The appointment had been deliberately scheduled against a standing spa date with her mother. When confronted, she dismissed the counseling as unnecessary. Why pay someone to tell us what we already know? We have normal relationship stuff to work through, but nothing serious. That night, I met my friend Frank for drinks, and finally shared my growing concerns. His reaction was immediate and unfiltered. "Ted, this is not normal relationship stuff. She is showing you exactly who she is. A person who fundamentally does not respect you as an equal. Is that what you want for the rest of your life?" His blunt assessment forced me to confront truths I had been avoiding. Still, breaking an engagement was a serious step. I decided to make one final attempt to reach Jessica to see if she understood how her attitudes were affecting me. An illuminating conversation with Jessica's brother Michael occurred by chance when he dropped by our apartment to pick up some family photos for a surprise anniversary project for their parents. Jessica was out at a dress fitting, and Michael and I ended up talking over beers. Always more down-to-earth than his sister Michael, unexpectedly offered a window into how Jessica truly saw our relationship. "Jess has always been the family princess," he said casually. "Even as kids, she expected everyone to accommodate her. I am actually surprised she is marrying someone so normal." "What do you mean?" I asked, feeling a familiar knot form in my stomach. Michael looked uncomfortable, realizing he had said too much. Just that her previous boyfriends were all from our circle. Old money, family connections, that whole scene. She told Mom she was tired of entitled trust fund guys with no depth. Said she wanted someone real for a change. It was meant as a compliment, I think, but his words revealed I was an experiment for Jessica, a refreshing diversion from her usual type, not a partner she saw as her equal. As the wedding date approached, I noticed Jessica subtly isolating me from friends and family. She deemed not good enough. Weekend visits to my parents were shortened or canceled. Dinners with my college friends became increasingly rare. She would create scheduling conflicts, or simply express such obvious disdain that I began avoiding these gatherings to prevent uncomfortable situations. With each passing day, my depression and self-doubt grew. Was I being ungrateful? Was my pride getting in the way of a good match? Or was I compromising my dignity and self-respect for someone who would never truly value me? Our 2-year anniversary fell 1 month before the planned wedding. Date. I made reservations at Mirabelle, an upscale restaurant where we had celebrated special occasions before. I had decided this would be my final attempt to have an honest conversation about our relationship before making the difficult decision that had been forming in my mind for weeks. Jessica arrived 20 minutes late, distracted by work calls and barely apologetic for keeping me waiting. She looked stunning in a navy dress I had never seen before, her dark hair swept up elegantly. For a moment, seeing her across the candlelit table, I remembered what had drawn me to her, the intelligence and vivacity that had seemed so genuine at the beginning. I had prepared what I wanted to say, practicing a respectful but direct approach to addressing my concerns. After we ordered, I reached for her hand across the table. "Jessica, I think we need to talk about some fundamental issues before the wedding. I feel like we have different expectations about our partnership, especially around finances and mutual respect." She withdrew her hand to take a sip of wine, sighing as if I was bringing up a tedious topic. "Is this about the prenup again? I thought we settled that." "It is about more than just the legal agreement," I explained. "It is about how we view each other and our future together. I want us to be equal partners making decisions together, respecting each other's contributions, financial or otherwise." Jessica studied me with a calculating expression I had never seen directed at me before. Then she laughed, a cold sound, nothing like her usual warm laughter. "Just so you know, my money is completely off limits. Even after marriage," she said, her voice carrying in the quiet restaurant. "We can share expenses proportionally based on income, but my investments, trust fund, and family assets remain exclusively mine." I was stunned by her bluntness, but what came next was even worse. You should be grateful I am even marrying down, she sneered. Do you know how many men would kill to be in your position? My friends think I am crazy for not choosing someone from our social circle. The restaurant seemed to fall silent, though I am sure that was just the blood rushing in my ears. In that crystalline moment, I saw Jessica clearly. For perhaps the first time, the mask of affection completely dropped to reveal the person beneath, someone who had never seen me as an equal, never truly respected me. You think you are doing me a favor by marrying me? I asked quietly. Let us be honest, Ted. You are getting the better end of this deal. You get access to my world connections that could propel your career beyond that little firm entree to social circles you could never access otherwise. What exactly am I getting that I could not buy myself? Each word was like a slap. I thought about my parents, who had built a modest but dignified life on teachers' salaries, whose 35-year marriage was a true partnership of equals. I thought about my own values, the integrity and independence I had always prized. With perfect clarity, I understood that marrying Jessica would mean surrendering those values. No amount of luxury or social advancement could compensate for the slow erosion of self-respect that would come from being the lesser partner, the charity case, the rescue dog she so callously compared me to. In that moment, a strange calm settled over me. Without anger or dramatics, I reached across the table and took her left hand. The 3-carat engagement ring I had replaced my original design with at her mother. Subtle suggestion glinted under the restaurant lights. Gently, I slid it off her finger. What are you doing, Jessica? Asked confusion, replacing her contempt. I am choosing myself, I said simply. I deserve someone who values me for who I am, not what I can be upgraded into. And you deserve someone who meets your expectations without needing to be transformed. Her face contorted with shock and anger. You cannot be serious. Do you know how much work I have put into this relationship? Into you? That is exactly the problem, I replied, placing the ring on the table between us. A healthy relationship is not a renovation project. I stood up, placed enough cash on the table to cover our drinks and untouched appetizers, and walked out. Behind me, I heard Jessica calling my name, her tone shifting from anger to disbelief to a hint of panic. I did not look back. Outside, the cool evening air filled my lungs. For the first time in months, I felt the weight lift from my shoulders. The sadness would come later, I knew, but in that moment, all I felt was relief. The ring I could not truly afford was no longer my burden to bear, and neither was a future built on conditional acceptance. The aftermath was as painful as I had anticipated. Jessica vacillated between rage and manipulation, her texts ranging from vicious attacks on my character to tearful pleas about all we were throwing away. Her father called once, his message terse and businesslike, reminding me of potential professional consequences from what he termed my impulsive decision. Her mother surprisingly sent a brief but kind note saying she respected my choice and wished me well. My friends rallied around me with unexpected fervor. Frank organized a night out where no one mentioned Jessica, just surrounded me with normalcy and laughter I had nearly forgotten. My parents, who had always been politely reserved about my relationship, revealed their quiet concerns and offered their steadfast support. The process of untangling our lives was complicated. Canceling wedding arrangements, returning gifts, explaining to confused relatives and friends. Each step was difficult, but confirmed I had made the right choice. Jessica had handled most of the wedding planning unilaterally, and watching her assistant mechanically dismantle those arrangements reinforced how little input I would have had in our married life. There were dark moments in those early weeks. Nights when I questioned my decision, wondering if I had overreacted or let pride destroy something valuable. The apartment felt empty without her weekend presence. I missed our Sunday crosswords, and the future I had imagined for us, the one where her coldness was just a phase we would overcome. A colleague recommended a therapist who specialized in relationship trauma, and those weekly sessions became crucial to my healing. Dr. Harris helped me recognize the patterns of financial abuse that had been establishing themselves, how my boundaries had gradually eroded, and how my own insecurities had made me vulnerable to accepting less than I deserved. I threw myself into work, finding solace in creativity and purpose. My firm assigned me to a community center project in a revitalizing neighborhood, and the meaningful work helped rebuild my confidence. I reconnected with college friends Jessica had deemed too bohemian, rediscovering parts of myself that had been suppressed during our relationship. 6 months after our broken engagement, I took the biggest professional risk of my life, leaving my secure position to start my own small practice, focused on sustainable, affordable housing. The irony was not lost on me that this was exactly the career move Jessica had discouraged. My modest savings, no longer depleted by an extravagant ring and wedding contributions, provided just enough runway to get started. To my surprise, 3 clients from my previous firm followed me, appreciating my design philosophy and personal approach. One project led to another, and within a year my studio had established a growing reputation for innovative community-centered design. I hired 2 junior architects and moved the office from my apartment to a small but light-filled space in an artist's building. Jessica reached out several times as news of my professional success spread through our overlapping social circles. Her messages became increasingly conciliatory, suggesting we meet for coffee to talk about what went wrong. I declined politely, but firmly recognizing that true healing required complete separation. The final message I received from her came after my firm was featured in a design magazine. "I always knew you were talented," she wrote. "Maybe I underestimated you. I am sorry for that." I did not respond, but felt the last lingering doubts about my decision dissolve. Her apology, while welcome, still centered on my professional achievements, rather than acknowledging the fundamental disrespect that had poisoned our relationship. The greatest revelation in my healing journey was recognizing that respect cannot be earned in a relationship. It must be the foundation upon which everything else is built. Financial disparities, different backgrounds, contrasting life experiences, all these can be navigated successfully, but only when both partners see each other as inherently worthy of dignity and respect. Today, my life bears little resemblance to the future Jessica had planned for us. My work focuses on projects with meaning rather than prestige. My apartment remains modestly furnished, but feels authentically mine. I drive the same practical car, though now by choice rather than necessity. My circle of friends is diverse in both background and financial status, united only by genuine connection and mutual respect. When people ask if I regret walking away from what appeared to be an advantageous match, I think about that moment in the restaurant when I chose self-respect over social advancement. The temporary pain of a broken engagement was nothing compared to the slow death of dignity a fundamentally unequal marriage would have brought. Real love, I have come to believe, does not seek to elevate or improve its object. It recognizes the inherent worth already present and creates space for authentic growth. It does not demand gratitude for its presence, but offers appreciation for the gift of mutual connection. Have you ever had to choose between material comfort and personal dignity? What would you have done in my situation? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they deserve respect without conditions. Thank you for listening. And remember, the most valuable thing you bring to any relationship is not your bank account or social status, but your authentic self, worthy of love, exactly as you are.